ends of the spectrum. Let's take a look first at Gerren's deck. Gerren is representing the green and yellow Volition deck. This is more on the control end of the spectrum, the combo type deck. So you're going to see a lot of slower play, a lot more control, damage mitigation, extending the game out. You want to make sure that you're taking a lot of time to collect your pieces. So, I mean, what can we talk about this deck that Gerren has brought that we haven't already spoken about?
Yeah, just a quick recap for anyone who happens to be joining a little bit later or missed the game before. It's a control deck that aims to do a little bit of chip damage along the way and then burst you out from 20 or 30 health using some of these big threats like Ikuturso or the Boneyard Abomination, along with some number of volitions to do an absurd amount of damage from hand.
Yeah, we've seen it in the past before where he just, rattles off 3 volitions in a row in order to find that lethal from a point where your opponent thinks they might be safe. They might be in that wheelhouse of life total where you don't think your opponent can bust through, even with a big volition deck like this. So this deck can find really, really nasty ways to beat you. But from a perspective of where this deck is going to be playing against, looking at cards like Clay Effigy, Maze of Yatiku, Miso Libre, Wonder Drug, these are some really good cards that'll combat that early game aggression from your opponent. And then you have Gritting Kolobok that can absorb some damage. Born Again will keep coming back and keep coming back in order to sort of just soak up some damage while you get yourself set up. This is kind of you're representing the ultimate OTK kind of control combo deck.
And on the other hand, we have what is potentially the most polar opposite deck in the tournament, piloted by Koveras. It is going to be the blue and red aggro deck, and thanks again to mythgardhub.com for hosting all of the decks in this tournament. If you have any decks you want to check out from today, head on over to mythgardhub.com. You can find all of the lists and use them for yourself, because net decking is not a crime. Don't let anyone shame you for it. Blake, talk to me about this deck a bit.
All right. Well, if we're just from a giving it the eye test, we saw the previous deck and just how long that list was. Again, let's look at how concise and really to the point this deck is. 4 times Stragoi Pop, 4 times Trapezes, 4 times Iron Belly. You're really packing in as much punch as possible. What we have here is Koveras has identified what the most aggressive cards are in these 2 color schemes and has really packed on and not spread this deck too thin and got too cute with it. It's just as much aggression as possible with, cards like Stairway to Hades that can really get some extra mileage off those cards with some very sneaky trades. Wings of Abaddon ×2 with the overrun ability. You have Panic Raider for card draw. And again, it's very important to note, you're running Rainbow's End. Typically, these aggressive decks like to go ahead and play Journey of Souls in order to recover some of those lost minions that have died in the glory of battle. But in this case, no, he is opting for the card draw that comes from the multiple enchantments. So, having a look at those, 4 times Cairnhenge, you have 3 times Demolition Speedway, Giant Stairway, Stairway to Hades. And you spoke about it earlier. If you just want to touch base on this again, the importance of Demolition Speedway in this matchup.
Yeah, Demolition Speedway. For anyone who is familiar with the red-purple aggro Orpheum of Horrors deck that was recently nerfed, Demolition Speedway is effectively replacing Orpheum of Horrors. What happens is Orpheum has the +1 attack, had the +1 attack, as well as the on death trigger doing 1 to everything. That's effectively +2 power worth of trading. And then if you just use Demolition Speedway, it gives you that same +2, but now you get overrun instead. So you can pump out a lot of damage by throwing your rush minions onto that. We will check out exactly how that works right now as we're getting into the finals of the Moonlight Masquerade. Blake, let's do this.
All right, Gerren and Koveras ready to kick it off over here. This is game 1 of the finals, a quick burn of Misanthropia and the corn, ladies and gentlemen, planting that corn early for some, delicious rewards. Now, again, you have that leprechaun coin. You could be very sneaky here, catching Gerren in winter, coining out a Trapezist, and immediately, as you see right here, catching him in the dead of winter. Corn likes a nice warmer climate. In this case, the Trapezist is just going to go ahead and set fire to those fields.
That's so huge. getting that off the field, denying the card draw, and also getting a 2/2 undisturbed, no damage returned on turn 1. It's enormous.
It's fantastic, and there's a triplicate of Panic Raiders over there. One of those is probably going to have to bite it to go back into the deck and begin, establishing more aggression. Karen Herring comes off the top from the passive ability of Rainbow's End. Rainbow's End at the end of the turn, if the top card is an enchantment, you draw it. Miso Libre is going to go sit in the Behemi Falls, regenerating 2 health for Gerren and putting the brakes on that Trapezist. Now Karen Herring comes out. I don't think that he would attack here, I don't suspect.
There's not much of a need for it. You could just use the Impel, though, and then get a nice trade. Get your 4/4 to be nice and healthy, thanks to Einar Thane surviving because of its ability to heal when an enemy minion dies. Coming up really well for Koveras so far. Also has the Demolition Speedways to fall back on that lane 1 if he so desires. Gerren,
These are some
go ahead
slow
and
turns.
draw. That signals really, really hard that there's a Misanthropia. Koveras probably will be able to read that.
Yeah, Corn coming out, and again, that is not going to get touched, but next turn it's probably going to be just, picking a card up off of that. This might be, if you're reading into a Misanthropia here, you're probably looking to play Demolition Speedway, maybe drop a pup if you need to, even a Panic Raider possibly, which will get you a card. But I think, like you said, if you're reading into Misanthropia, what you want to do here is not commit too many bodies. I think that those Panic Raiders are more important right now, especially next turn where you can play a Panic Raider and a Demo Speedway all together.
Yeah, absolutely. Gerren does get this Maze draw, which is nice. Boneyard Abomination not going to help anytime soon. Okay, I can get behind that.
Burning green instead, no Misanthropia. This might actually be him trying to bait out the fact that he doesn't have it. It's completely possible that he's looking to bluff here by burning that green, suspecting that, maybe if you're Koveras, you're thinking, he might not have Misanthropia. This might be a good turn for me to start going all in. The Witch comes down, stuns the Trapezist. That requires an answer right now. The issue right here is that you are caught in winter if you're Gerren. So an Iron Belly is a fair trade now on that Witch.
I actually prefer Demolition Speedway Panic Raider.
See what way he takes here?
Yeah, you could do the Demolition Speedway, you could use the Infuse. Multiple ways to skin that cat, which is the worst phrase ever, I'm sorry. Gerren does still have the Misanthropia to fall back on. Could also throw down the Twin next turn. This turn after burning, I think. Is Twin 6 or 7?
6.
Six.
It's a 3 gem, 3 yellow gem play.
Yes. We're gonna
Burning
burn
the
the
Volition
Volition.
back there.
Makes sense, not going to come down anytime soon. Koveras has a couple options next turn himself. The Oak of Dodona is really, really nice to get down pretty much always. However, by burning that, you get double rushing between Raider and Wyvern, so definitely a choice he's going to have to make. The double set of twins comes through. Koveras finds another Trapezist.
So you can go ahead and infuse onto the Thane and get the trade in on the Twin.
That you can. And then
However,
Trapezist into the other twin and then overrun it, but then that's a lot of trading you've just done for comparatively little effect.
Now in these matchups, it's usually a matter of, like we said, you're getting to that point where the writing's on the wall for one of the two players, which is if you're Gerren, you want to stabilize by turn 6 so you can start establishing a board, and hopefully Koveras has run out of gas by then. You're in a comfortable state. I don't think Koveras is happy that he's only punched through for 5 or 6 damage up to this point. It looked really good early on. However, the stall effects that Gerren has in his hand, and he's still holding on to a Misanthropia plus 2 Miso Libres to really slow things down. Now, we're not in that point where, we're in turn 6. It looks like both players have a decent spot here. You have the established speedways, which are good, especially with the amount of rush minions. But if you're Koveras, you understand that there's 2 Wonder Drugs floating around. There's a lot of life gain potential that is still in there. There's a lot of stall, board wipes. I feel like if you're Koveras, you wish that you had punched through for a lot more than you have by now.
On the one hand, yeah, absolutely. I mean, your aggressive deck, you always want to punch through for more, right? On the other hand, if you're still reading that Gerren is sitting on Misanthropia, then you're really waiting for that to come out first. Gerren has been somewhat reluctant to commit very much. He's only been playing one turn at a time, give or take. So I can understand thinking that Gerren's still on that, but it's hard to know. Gerren is going to go ahead and slide over that twin, get that Panic Raider off the board.
A Panic Raider here on that Speedway does what it needs to do, which is it breaches,
Yes.
it kills, plus the overrun value will be significant.
This might be even better. You get that overrun damage, and you also get to keep your Panic Raider for next turn. Requires your opponent to have an answer. Ooh, Fire Eater is on the draw. If you burn
Fire
the
Eater's nice.
Machia, there we go.
The question is here is what's the value of that Gigantomachia for you? What are you really taking off the board at that? You know, you've already seen 2 sets of the twins that are gone. What other major threats from that deck list are you necessarily worried about? There is, I mean, you have a Zolea, you have a Sapo. There's only 1 set of twins in this deck list, but in terms of other big creatures, I mean, Ecoturso, Short Stag, Boneyard Abomination, it's not really in your best interest to Gigantomachia right now, knowing that there's still so much gas that you need to worry about.
And that you're not going to be able to capitalize on it right now anyway.
Gigantomachia is going to be a card that essentially opens the door for that lethal, I feel. Though it is an expensive card, if you can establish some cards on the board, you'll be okay. But just look at this just amount of just flesh in front of all these cards that are really not going to be able to do much. Oak of Dodonna in the corner there is going to make short work of that Corn next turn. But as it stands right now, there's just so many bodies in the way and not really much that you can do to challenge it.
Yeah. And this Fire Eater coming down is nice as well for several reasons. One is you get to ping off the maze. And 2, it offers you a kind of a backup plan for if your opponent tries anything funky, right? Because your opponent is in winter. So you don't die to the Mesolibre on board already. And now you're getting 2 damage if they try and trade over that. And then you can answer it back the next turn with the ability to, you know, send out your little ping. So I like the placement of the Fire Eater a lot. Gerren's hand, it's clunky, right? It doesn't have a lot of really effective tools. It doesn't have a lot to develop, and it doesn't really have good reactive tools either right now. The Misanthropia is always a good card, but it hurts you almost more than it hurts your opponent, which is never where you want to be. So I'd be looking at maybe deporting the Flame Eater, but that doesn't really do a ton either.
There is an option here for next turn. I mean, okay, there's the Misanthropia. So he is, I mean, like you're saying, it does more damage to you than it does your opponent. But what's worth noting here is that your opponent will suffer the Misanthropia before you, so you will still have a couple bodies up to block potential rush minions if necessary, while on your opponent's side, they're just going to get wiped out. So a draw of Wings of Abaddon is pretty significant here. You're going to be at 7 mana, but it's still not enough to really crush through, because even with Wings and Iron Belly, oh, hold on a second. I think that could be lethal. If you throw down the Wings of Abaddon, crush through the maze, that does 4 to face, and then you Iron Belly onto the Speedway for the additional 5, that should do it.
I believe you are correct.
And you are caught. Once again, you are absolutely caught with with winter as really the deciding factor of this. There it is. He found it. Koveras snuck through before any Volition combo could be established. Any of the threats could hit the board, and Gigantomachia just sat in the hand as a backup plan, but still not necessary. Koveras punching through, finding that lethal, catching his opponent in the dead of winter.
Yeah, and we see the proactive plan was really, really strong there. And particularly Gerren's reactive tools were a little bit lacking, right? You had a couple Meso Libres, which were nice, but Koveras did something a little bit different this game where he spread out his threats a lot earlier than he had in previous games. In previous games, he would stick to one side of the board or other until turn, 4 or 5. I think in that game, he split his threats up around like what, turn 3 instead?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Sorry.
Pulling everybody apart and making sure that your threats were harder to answer, especially given Gerren's kind of lacking tools to deal with a wide board until the Misanthropia came out, worked out really, really well for Koveras.
Yeah, and again, catching your opponent in the right seasons. It started right off the bat in turn 1, using the coin to get the Trapezist out to crush that maze of Yatiku in winter on turn 1 was also important, denying card draw and potential more dig into that deck as we go to game 2 between Koveras and Gerren here at the Moonlight Masquerade finals. Koveras taking game 1, sneaking an exact lethal in using a Demolition Speedway and a quick burn of Volition, and a Clay Effigy is just a body on the board and a card in hand.
Holy crap, Gerren's hand sucks.
Yeah, that is not looking good at all. There's not much to really work on. You have a Maze of UTQ, but the problem is that's a fine card to play if you're playing against a slower deck. The issue here is that Koveras has instant answers, has a lot of quick answers to a lot of this. A Stragaway Pup on the right-hand side, pays no attention to that statue all the way on the opposite left.
Yeah, the good news for Gerren is that a lot of the cards that he has in hand are redraws between the idol and the maze, so that's kind of nice. But it is still a really clunky hand. Having the Wonder Drug in hand to start with is a boon, given that you have such a clunky hand to start with. I would expect to not see that burned at any given time. And you do get Meso Libre as well, so it's... The mechanics of the game are doing well for Gerren right now, in that burning a card that is useless still gives you benefit from a card you wouldn't benefit from otherwise.
And I like this play here. The other option was to go Daring Trapezist to just either challenge the maze and deny the card draw, but I think Koveras knows what his bread and butter is here. His bread and butter is to pressure face as much as possible, and that Fire Eater now, he kind of forgot a little bit about the fact that he took advantage of the seasons last time and converted on some really cheeky winter plays, but in this case, when you go from spring to summer, all of your creatures get healed by 1, and in that case, that Fire Eater ping was nullified. The corner went up to 4 and drew a card there, and the Meso Libre is going to come in and shut down that Fire Eater. And this is, I think, one of the first few times that we get to see Bragi Runesinger play his solo on the center stage.
Yeah, and it is a very, very good card in this kind of deck because you are running a relatively high density of enchantments. That Stairway to Hades being drawn is one of them. And being able to get your Bragi running and cycle through some of those cards that you really don't want to see when you're trying to put the damage on, or that you really don't want to see when you already got a board but you just need it to reach a little bit further, can be really, really valuable, especially given that it also has warded. Gerren is running, plenty of things that target, and then actually that's not really true now that I think about it. Most things that are in this deck are board based, not targeting based. Interesting.
Oh, and
Volition already.
I think that's a fair play. I think that he knows that he ran out of time last game, and if he wants to get greedy by hanging on to too many Volitions, it might not be in his best interest. So getting rid of a card that was going to threaten life total, threaten some of the blockers he's got going on, it might have been an okay use of his mana that he otherwise wouldn't necessarily have a play for.
Yeah, I think you're probably totally right. It's a really careful balancing act of making sure you win the game versus making sure you don't lose the game before you have a chance to win the game. And I think Gerren is saying, well, if I don't act now, then I'll never have a chance to do any of my combo, so there's no use in holding on to it, which is a very fair play.
In this case, the establishment of Bragi with the double blue has sort of handcuffed how many cards he can play in the next round, and in this case, the double gems of Panic Raider and Wyvern means that you cannot establish a Panic Raider and a Pup. You have to make a choice of playing the Trapezist. In this case, the only good home for that Trapezist was into the Meso Libre, clearing away. Pup again, we've tale as old as time. The pup is going to be there on the right hand side, just kind of sneak in some damage where possible. And the warded Bragging Runesinger might be able to go ahead and offer some frenzy if it's not answered this time.
And getting Frenzy down onto, say, a Panic Raider is just absolutely nuts. What I would kind of like is, weirdly enough, I kind of want Koveras to get greedy, right? Play the Stairway to Hades first, then throw the Panic Raider down and Frenzy on it from Broggy's effect the first time, then get it back and just draw 4 cards in a turn.
Oh, this is a good play right here, mainly because you're in winter and that witch was going to die to a number of different of options here.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's okay here. Potentially, if you could actually burn. Oh, I was going to say you burn the Panic Raider and you play Trapezist into the Maze and then Wyvern into the Witch, and that clears them both.
Instead, gonna just go ahead and infuse onto the pup, get that life total up a bit. I do agree with your line. I think that Bella is very, very scary. It enables a lot of very good plays, and also you really don't want your rush minions getting gummed up like this. It's problematic. So we'll see how Koveras can navigate around that. Gerren does have Sapo in hand and has the twins down. Now the twins can offer 2 different blockers, which is enormous, and also are just big threats in and of themselves, which is always nice to have on hand.
This was the turn you wanted to draw Gigantomachia. This was the home run turn that would have really helped you out here. Now, there might be an option to think about putting Stairway underneath the Panic Raider and maybe connect and clear one of those. But the problem here is that you're still not getting enough through. It's definitely not an ideal play. I think that I still think that there was a missed opportunity last turn to clear the Witch, because that would have also prevented the stun on your Braggy, and now you're in a scenario where you're running out of plays here. You're running out of turns because the board is getting, like you said, gummed up. It's getting clogged. There's not many lanes for you to just kind of sneak through and deal damage. So from Gerren's perspective, even looking at his hands, that Sapo is going to come into effect next turn if necessary. Now, the targets that you're hitting with Sapo are not always going to be high value, but the fact remains that you've got a big boy on the board that is warded that you can play to block more lanes.
And the remaining twin clears off the Broggy. Now, the Ironbelly Wyvern is going to have a nice trade into that twin and then get Frenzy as well, push a lot of damage. That is a very relevant fact. Gerren's got the Wonder Drug already in hand, though, and having Bald Mountain on top of that to reduce the cost of all of these alongside Bella. These spells are so cheap, Flake.
Yeah, no, that's the way that this deck works, is you want to establish your board, and then your volitions are essentially free. They're only going to cost you gems out of your pool, but that means you still have to burn gems in order to get these combos to go off. The volition is there. There's the Wonder Drug giving you an extra cushion, an extra card. You've got some options. You've got the Kolobok, which is essentially garbage. It's burn fodder, though, so you have a safe card to burn, but you got Sapo.
Panic Raider, dude, Panic Raider for Koveras. Throw that onto the Stairway to Hades, get the trade, and then get 2 draws after that. That is fantastic.
That's a great line of play here, but he's opting instead. I find this a little bit curious. I guess he'd rather punch for the damage.
I'm curious that he's not imbuing it.
Now, here's the thing. I think he realized that he messed up because he could have infused on this play right here for the extra damage.
Right.
Because now he can't. I don't think he wants to burn the Iron Belly.
I don't think you want to burn either of those.
Yeah, this might have been a little bit of a misstep because the Panic Raider could have been... So you attack with the Panic Raider and then you get it back. And then you're attacking face for another 3 damage, but you're getting 2 cards off the top. One of those could be worth drawing, or burning rather. Then you play your Iron Belly Wyvern and you're good to go. The gem situation here is a little bit yucky.
He is going to go ahead and burn and play the Panic Raider. We'll see what this draw is, see if it was worth it. Wings of Abaddon, that's worth it.
That's significantly worth it. And right now you're representing, let's see, if you infuse that Wyvern next turn, you're going Wyvern for 8, 9 on the other side, plus the 4 is lethal. So there is lethal if that right side of the board is not immediately dealt with. But again, Once again, the witch, she is just getting her fingers into everybody's cookie jar on that one, and it is unfortunate that that's the case. This might be, again, a scenario that Koveras is kicking himself for not dealing with that when he had the opportunity in winter some many moons ago.
And
But
Gerren,
looking,
I'm looking at Sapo, and it looks so good right now.
this is definitely a Sapo that you want to take because it's going to block the rightmost side of the board, and it's warded. And but again, Wings of Abaddon might be able to get through it. Well, you'll Wings of Abaddon through it and then get it back with Stairway, but you're losing it in that case. Depends what comes up off the top, because a Frenzied Wings of Abaddon is pretty damn good in
Well, the
itself.
other thing is, Wings does have that nifty ability where you can pay 2 and sacrifice a minion to get immortal until the end of the turn. So,
Oh, the Panic Raider would look real nice and tasty right now if it gets
Ooh.
blocked.
here's a twin though. The second set of twins comes out, and Wings of Abaddon doesn't really have a great way to deal with that. You can sacrifice the Panic Raider and trade over the one in the middle, but it still doesn't really accomplish all too much. Ironbelly Wyvern can trade off into one of the minions on the far left in lanes 1 and 2.
How's this? Let's say you drop your Wings of Abaddon across from Bald Mountain, and you plow through the corn. The answer that he has for that is Sapo, which means that if he plays Sapo to kill the Wings, it's going to eat the Witch.
Oh, that is such an interesting play. I like that a lot. You put the Panic Raider onto the Stairway to Hades. That way you can get it back next turn, and it has the Frenzy. Interesting. Okay. I can get behind that.
All right, in this case, we're still... like, the interesting part about Koveras' deck is that 12 points of damage... We've seen it before. He's pulled a rabbit out of his hat many times. This is a Magic show that, you know, has a reputation for creating all kinds of chaos out of nowhere. And even though there's only one card in hand, this is where this is going to get spooky, is because that cornfield that's like 3 harvests already. Now that the pumpkins that it's picking out of that patch there, the cola box, are really kind of garbage in this regard right now. It's just burn fodder still. But look at that, 2 volitions. You've got 2 volitions in hand and a Sapo, so you got a big boy. So Koveras, actually, with his early game life gain from those pups, is probably going to save him a little bit here.
Yeah, very much so. He does have a lot of health to work with. That said, this Bella has been absolutely indispensable this game. It has gummed up this board so many times. It is absolutely ridiculous. Also, unrelated, we are just getting word from production that for the 3rd place match, Ariel has just beaten Wholesome 2-0. So congratulations to Ariel for getting 3rd place, Wholesome getting 4th. Well played to both of you.
Yeah, that was that happened. That happens in the instead they don't even play Mythgard. They just have this, that we have like a blood sport kind of cage match that happens between them all. And Koveras says, forget it, not happening. Let's just go to the next game here. Let's make it a 3-4. This is something that we're all watching happen. You know, again, we had the aggressive deck that managed to sneak through the damage when it needed to do it. But look at that. As soon as that witch came down and was protected by a cornfield of all things, you just couldn't make it happen, because that stun effect over and over and over just becomes just so not just powerful from a turn of mitigating damage, but also depressing and demoralizing from Koveras' standpoint.
Yeah, and you've been playing all day and all day yesterday too, right? Let's not forget the mental effect is very, very relevant.
You have to factor that in. There is a little amount of fatigue. Endurance is something that these tournament players have to deal with. I don't play many tournaments. The few tournaments that I have played, sometimes it's just a godsend where you're like, all right, I lost in my set of games. I can go and, eat some Cheerios and watch cartoons, but I'm done with this. But these players have played 6 rounds of Swiss yesterday, and now in the finals have also made their way through the quarters, the semis. And now here they are battling it out in a 3rd and deciding match between Gerren's green-yellow Volition combo versus Koveras' blue-red enchantment aggro. These are decks that, what do you think? These are going to show up on the ladder tomorrow?
Yes, Flake. I believe they will show up on the ladder in great numbers. They will come flocking from all corners of the world to wreak havoc upon your ladder experience, and I apologize for what you were about to experience.
Oh, so it's gonna be you, is what we're saying.
Oh yeah, no, it's gonna be me, 100%.
All right. Straight out of the InSync lyric book, it's gonna be me.
It's gonna be May.
There it is. There's the Corn coming down from Gerren. Again, we've seen this storyline unfold before. The Corn is establishing itself on the left side. We do not have a pup to meet it this time, and but we do have a Fire Eater. We do have a Daring Trapezist. There are some cards for Koveras to play. It's just a matter of deciding how aggressive do you want to be. Are you going to establish that Fire Eater, or are you going to start pushing that tempo and deciding rather to go with the Trapezist and start whittling away on that life total?
Yeah, I think that makes a bunch of sense. You're gonna probably get a draw at some point or another anyway if you're Gerren, so really Koveras, I think, has to really put the pedal to the metal in this game. In the games so far where Koveras has gotten off to a slower start, it's been very hard for him to find wins. He's done it, definitely, but it's been through kind of stars aligned burst turns, not through your primary win condition. So I think he's really trying to spend a little bit more time going face this game where he can, as opposed to the previous games where he was forced into taking a more reactive, and if not reactive, then at least more value-oriented way.
Yeah, you're a matter of finding the seams and the opportunities as they're presented to you. And oh, that is a great draw off the top. Unfortunately, that other Fire Eater is stunned. That would have been great to just go ahead and Fire Eater double ping that Misa Libre down, but here we are. Unfortunately, Fire Eater is going to go ahead and sit by its buddy, perhaps do another 2 damage, but again, we're thinking here, what is worth it? What is the priority here? Is it the life total? Is it board control? Is it the opposing minions? Like, what do you want to protect here? Now, the Thane is gonna go ahead and sit in the center lane now that Misa Libre on the left side of the board is no longer really a threat to the minion base that Koveras has established from the center moving rightward.
That's another maze. So Gerren's going to have plenty of opportunities to draw. Koveras is in a nice position where he gets to already have a board under which he can develop Stairway. Enchantments are kind of funny in that they're really, really good, but they're only good if you have a board that can actually utilize them. So there's a lot of times where you'll have Stairway in hand, but nothing to do with it, right? Thankfully, Koveras already has this Fire Eater sitting around that would love to carry that +3/+3 for you.
And that's the problem with the Stairway. The Stairway is often a card that, unless you've got the board in your favor, nobody wants to spend 5 mana to throw down a nice pretty picture on a board with nothing to sit on it, right? Yeah. So it's a risky card, but a great card, because unless you're pushing tempo early, the Stairway is a very, very slow play. But in this case, there has been no problem, and up until now, I guess, as Misanthropia infects the board with disgusting blight of 3, and that Fire Eater, which had a nice array of friends just a second ago, now is left all alone, and an Infuse will allow it to tickle some more damage to face. But is this where, does he ping? I guess he pings the Corn away in this case, right?
I think that's a totally fair play. I think it's also fair to say I lose if it goes any longer because I'm already down to 2 cards.
Yes, and there's another Stairway. You can throw that underneath your Dodonna.
Yep. Here's the scary thing though. Gerren has the second board clear already in hand, which is very, very nice. Has 2 copies of Wonder Drug as well, which is going to be really, really necessary after Koveras almost certainly uses this Gigantomachia.
This is a great Gigantomachia. There's you're in a scenario here where you can't really get too greedy with these cards because you're on a clock. As much as Gerren is on a clock of having to withstand the early onslaught, Koveras is on a clock as well, because he knows that as the game progresses and more mana and gems are produced, there's going to be bigger and nastier cards on the board that his smaller, more modest army, though they are in a rush, can't deal with.
Ha. I see what you did there.
It was
pretty
slide
good.
It in there. I tried.
Yeah.
It's a 6 on 10. They're not all winners.
I mean, they don't have to always zingers, but they're respectable. Koveras does have the Panic Raider in hand. Gerren not drawing anything to actually do. To Wake the Bones can get back a Meso Libre. Yeah, there.
You could go ahead and Panic Raider through that, but I think the Panic Raider is better spent digging for cards now. Though the Panic Raider will survive through.
Probably. Bringing down to 7. You can burn the pup for the Wyvern.
That isn't the worst play.
I am worried though, because worried for Koveras because Gerren already has the 2 Wonder Drugs in hand. Probably going to see at least one of those come out now, because otherwise he just dies, and dying is usually not the best way to win a tournament.
That is correct. Well, and in this case, there's so much that comes up off the top that, I mean, what comes up off the top that kills him if he does not clear this board?
Yeah, Misanthropy is a good start.
Misanthropy is a good start, but Wings of Abaddon is still a win here. The Wings of Abaddon sit on the stairway with the infuse for 8 damage. So it's going to come down to a Wings off the top. If that comes out, that is the win here, unless he throws down a body in front, which he doesn't have. He's waking the bones,
looking for
more cards.
Ooh, puts it on the Baymeni Falls to get the heal.
Oh, he was so close with that, but that is still an option here. Now, he's just looking at his luck right now. If that corn did not hit the Bahemi Falls, it was going to be a different story.
And the Demolition Speedway doesn't do it either. This is going to be one short of lethal. Gerren has the Wonder Drugs in effect. This is a really weird race situation. Can Gerren out-heal what Koveras can put down? Gets the Giant Stairway off of the Rainbow's End, which is huge. Bald Mountain, less huge, but he does get 2 redraws.
Oh my goodness.
Those aren't great either.
You want to talk about a day late, a buck short? That was it right there. That Bahemi Falls, the corn on the falls, the 2 extra life gain from there was just enough to get him out of reach.
Do you just Wonder Drug the second one? You go for the second Wonder Drug, right? Because you're still 3 away from lethal, which is easily done.
You most certainly do.
Or not. Do you go for a blocker?
You have to block. You have to throw in front of there. You're looking at 6 damage. Anything off the top kills you. A Trapezist kills you. Another Wyvern kills you. A Panic Raider on a Demolition Speedway kills you. Anything that has rush will absolutely crush you in this case. You have to throw something in front of that, which he does, which is great. Now, there's the Detained. Deport really is...
Don't deport it.
Counterproductive. There's the Trapezist on a demo speedway. That's gonna punch through for 1 damage, and the remaining 4 coming from. Now the question is
still not quite it.
Well, Giant Stairway on the Trapezist
is
probably better.
I agree. You push 5 damage, get to clear off the maze that's in front of the Wyvern. You put on really good pressure.
Now,
and Gerren
here's the question.
Gerren doesn't have enough mana to do the combo either, despite having 3 volitions in hand.
So what's your scenario here? Do you push all the way? I think you have to push all the way. The other question is maybe you just go ahead and clear and wait for lethal next turn so that another Wonder Drug. But that's like a whole different scenario.
No, you force your opponent. You force your opponent to have Wonder Drug. You say if you don't have Wonder Drug, you die.
Rainbow's End cleaning up a Cairn Henge off the top there. This is getting very spooky here. That is 11 damage. That is already represented as lethal on the board with the infuse on top of it. You have to throw something down in front of it. There's a plethora of options there, specifically Short Stag, Bella Witch Queen, and here she is again to just wreak havoc on the Moonlight Masquerade. Dropping in, she's going to go ahead and stun that, I'm guessing, Wyvern, because the Wyvern with teleport could be nasty.
Well, I think given that you have the Clay Effigy, you actually stun up the Trapezist because it has Overrun. So you can put a blocker in front of the 6/5 and avoid getting any damage whatsoever by blocking the Overrun minion. But it's a very weird call, because the other potential is if the Wyvern just moves, your opponent could have something even scarier. That, like a Wings of Abaddon that already has Overrun, would be frightening. So I think the Trapezist is the right target. I think that's the correct call, but it's close. Magnus Thorson!
That is a big card. It's not enough yet, though. It is absolutely not enough yet. It does not come off the top
Not
and
quite,
go
no.
face. But this is a card that you want to throw down. And again, you're pushing tempo here. This is great because next turn, if that goes untouched, your giant stairway on that will be enough. And once again, another turn, another scenario of merely just getting so damn close, and there's no more wonder drugs for him to play. There could be a bald mountain into wonder drug potentially. There's all kinds of other options, but right now it's a matter of what are you going to throw in front of me that I'm going to deal with this time. There
Sapo.
is
Sapo is what you're going to throw down in front of me that I have to deal with this time.
But what are you sapoing? It has to be the center lane, because if you're not, what you could sapo the big boy and then impel over to the other side and block the other lanes. It's always an option.
Wait.
I mean, keep in mind, Koveras
Gerren is so close to just having lethal also.
Now,
The
Mark,
volition that was already used.
Mark, if you can just go ahead and take a look at what Bella Witch Queen's abilities are over there. We just want to double check over here. You know, it's a little bit jumbled on my screen, but the stun effect is what we're kind of getting at over here. Thanks, Mark. That is essentially what's important. There we go.
Meso Libre is a really nice one. Getting that off with a short stag, which can only take 3 damage in combat to start with. Strigoi Pup doesn't do it.
No, the pup is probably the worst thing that you could have drawn right there. It has no rush abilities. It has no real effects right now that immediately deal with the board and stun. Everybody is they're just sitting there wondering what the hell happens. Now, unfortunately, there is no impel for Koveras, because an option here would have been to impel the wyvern, teleport it in front of the witch, and kill the witch. That could maybe open up some options here. Koveras, really the one thing that he's got going for him is the fact that he's got a pretty healthy life total, but double volition and overrun is a nasty thing to look at.
The Strigoi Pup developed over in lane 1 does threaten the Witch Queen, which really needs to be dealt with. If it continues to get stun value, it can absolutely stall the game out enough for Koveras to lose it. And there's no way to deal with the short stag right now either.
No, again, short stag has that ability that it can only take 3 damage per engagement per combat. So it has survivability. You got to bump into it 3 times. It's a pain in the ass to deal with, and it's something that Koveras did not want to see. And if we're looking, I mean, Sapo is another bullet in the chamber for Koveras to deal with. Gerren clinging to life here in the 3rd and final deciding match of the Moonlight Masquerade finals, and we're with 2 volitions ready to go, some big boys on the board. I think it's only a matter of time. It's going to come down to Koveras finding the right cards. He already used Gigantomachia, I believe.
Yes, he did. He used on the twins.
Yeah, and I mean, he needed to do what he needed to do, but in this case, I mean, the witch has done her due diligence here. I think these are some pretty significant turns. These are very important turns. You want to weigh all your options. You want to make sure all your bases are covered. I feel like in this case, yeah, I think that this was the best way to go through it, is just give up a few parts of the board. You run away a little bit from the witch there, but Hemi falls again. Sapo comes down,
as well as gives you 2 points of healing for coming in on Bemeni Falls. I think this is looking really good for Gerren. Daring Trapezist doesn't do it. I think that's going to be the game for Gerren.
Man, I mean, it is a Moonlight Masquerade. There is a little bit of a Halloween thematic thing we've got going on here. So it's fitting that a witch has so much implication on how this game was decided. But look at that. Sapo comes down, just a stalwart yellow staple of a mythic card in the control category. It is a giant iguana lizard with some type of sinus infection, and his knees are mouths, ladies and gentlemen, in case you did not know that. Go take a look at your collection. Go look at Sapo and look at his joints. He has so many mouths. So many mouths. Everywhere. His elbows, his wrists.
Thanks, I hate it.
Thanks, I hate it. All
That's
right,
going to be lethal for Gerren. He's going to have exact lethal after the Volition comes through on the short stag. Gerren is going to be your first place winner in the Moonlight Masquerade Mythgard tournament. Oh, that was such a good game.
And a little bit of BM there saying, yeah, I had it twice, mofo. So thanks for playing. I like to dance the line. I like to just get as close to death as possible. He was at 1 point of life left. His HP just hanging by a thread and managing to create some nifty maneuvers there to manufacture that victory at the end. But here we are, we're at the end of the Moonlight Masquerade tournament, and green yellow Volition combo stands tall.
I think there are probably very few people surprised about that. Incredibly strong deck, very, very well piloted, probably just really well positioned in the meta in general. So I think the fact that that deck did well is no surprise, but should in no way detract from the fact that Gerren piloted it incredibly well and deserves all of the praise.
Yeah, a good deck does require a good pilot to maneuver through would be it the ladder or the tournament scene or whatnot. Because let's be honest, if it was just a matter of crafting a deck and succeeding, then anybody could do it. But that's not the case. But I want to give a lot of credit to all the competitors, because the sheer amount of variety in the decks that appeared, not just in the tournament as a whole, but that actually were successful enough to make it to the top 8. We saw just a wide array of great decks as we right now go take a look at the bracket as it shakes out at the end. How does this look, Laser?
It looks pretty freaking good. It looks like Gerren taking it all 2-1 over Koveras, having already gone through Zaj in round 1 and Ariel in round 2. Koveras going to take a second today after getting through Mido and Wholesome. Very, very impressive runs from both of these players. Congratulations to all of our top 8 for doing so well in Swiss yesterday. Put in great performances today as well. All of them should be very proud of themselves.
No, this has been an exceptional tournament. So congratulations to everybody who signed up, who played, who threw down, and specifically to our top 8 who managed to get there first of all and put on some excellent matches. It's also worth noting that in the third place match, it was Ariel who beat Wholesome 2-0 to take the third place crown. So congratulations to the top 3 who will be leaving with lots of delicious and juicy prizes courtesy of Rhino Games and all of our sponsors as well, such as 98.3 Media, Inked Gaming, mythhub.com. So don't forget about mythgardhub.com and go check out where all these decks that you saw in action today, they are there, mythgardhub.com, where you can find all the decks from today's tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that will also be supported by Team Rankstar on the prize pool. So many thanks to them. Flake, I think that about wraps us up. Any final thoughts on the day?
Final thoughts on the day. I just want to say, first of all, a big, humongous, massive thanks goes to Mark Theus, who was
absolutely
the production of this. Now, this is probably one of the first major productions in terms of tournaments for Mythgard, and I think that it went exceptionally well. From a production standpoint and everything, Mark Theus is the one who is behind the curtain, essentially producing it, pushing the buttons, the transitions, all the graphics and etc. that you see was put together by Mark. So he was, you didn't hear him, you didn't see him, but you definitely felt him. He was the one who put this on. So Mark, well done to you, my friend, and 98.3 Media for putting this on. Check out 98.3 Media on Twitter at 983TV. Go check them out for sure. Other than that, Laser, it has been my sincere pleasure and honor. It's the first time I get to cast with you, and it was my joy to do so.
Yeah, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for joining us, Flake. I think all we have to do is an internet high five, and then we can call it a day.
Let's see if I... Let's just do this.
We're doing one more giveaway, so don't go anywhere. The high fives are happening.
Yeah,
another giveaway. Thanks everyone so much for joining us. I'm Lasergician. It's been the other way, Flake. It's been great. We're also on Twitter and our own Twitches. If you care to find us, that is where you can do so. And I think that about wraps us up. So thank you all so much for joining us for the Moonlight Masquerade, everyone. Hope you enjoyed. Congratulations to our winners, and we will be back in a couple short little while for another tournament coming at you soon.